Welcome to the Wednesday, April 13th, 2022 Planning Board meeting for the town of Raymond. The Planning Board will come to order. The board does have a quorum, and we'll start with roll call. Greg, would you start?
Greg Foster.
Robert O'Neill.
Ed Kranich. Mark Child.
And Kim.
Mike D'Arcangelo.
All right. This is a public proceeding, and unless the board specifically votes to go into executive session, you have the right to hear everything that is being said and to look at all the exhibits that are presented. Please notify the chair if you are unable to see or to hear. The board works from a published agenda and will be considering tonight's items in the following order. Is anybody here for the public hearing portion for the ordinances? Okay.
Check online too.
Well, they won't matter online though, yeah. So we are going to first look at the final review plan for the Raymond Hills Llc. We'll then look at the initial plan review for major subdivision from Brandon Chase, a request for a waiver for an extension for a subdivision, and then we'll go to the public hearing for the ordinance amendments. In each instance, the burden is upon the applicant to demonstrate compliance with the provisions of the applicable ordinances or state law. All persons speaking, including representative of the applicant and members of the public, are asked to stand at the microphone and state their name, address, and affiliation with the application. All persons speaking shall address the chair. Any conversation must be held in abeyance until after the board has formally adjourned. After the board votes on the merits of each application, it will prepare a written notice of decision. Because the notice of decision may substantially affect any appeals rights, and also as a matter of courtesy, the board asks that those attending the meeting with regards to a specific application not leave until the board has completed its discussion. Appeals from adverse decisions must be filed with the Superior Court or as otherwise provided by law within 45 days of this board's decision. Also, to be certain that you preserve your individual rights to file any such appeal, you must be certain that the board records evidence of your appearance this evening. All right, so our first item is the minutes from March 9th, Wednesday, March 9th meeting. Are there any changes or additions?
None here.
Nope.
I did read it.
Okay.
I move that we approve the minutes as submitted for March 9th, 2022.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And Mike says aye. Okay, unanimous, passes unanimous. All right, this folder. Actually, I had to break folders out to stay organized. So our next up, we don't have any old business on the agenda. So next up is is Dustin, you're the Raymond Hills LLC. Jim, I'm not sure we need to go through the whole introduction.
No,
that
I
you
was just
normally
going to
do.
defer to Dustin to
Perfect.
respond.
Okay, Dustin, if you could just address the items that were left over.
Yeah, I think we spent quite a bit of time last time kind of going item by item down through the memos. So
Yeah, we did.
I'll just hit the,
And then those 8 additional items, I think that Jim sent you this afternoon.
I didn't see anything this afternoon.
Oh, good, okay, just checking.
Yeah, so when we left the last meeting, the kind of our punch list of items that we needed to clean up to bring back in front of you, we put together, working with Bill Kennedy and the neighbor Kristen Kesh, put together an easement document for the construction of her driveway and the maintenance of the slopes and planting of some trees along that embankment there. That has been duly signed by both parties, so that is complete at this point. And we're committed to building out that driveway as part of the construction of the project. There was some questions about some large stone retaining walls that we had previously shown on the rear of a couple of the buildings. We've removed those walls completely, so we're just doing normal slope grading on the back sides of those buildings, so there won't be any need for those large walls. There was a few comments that Wayne had had on the fire department side where they just wanted some additional language put into the condo docs for restriction of parking on the roadways and the enforcement capabilities of the condo association to regulate those parking rules. So we've added those. Wayne's had a chance to look at them, and he did provide an email just indicating that he was satisfied with the changes that were made. So I think from there, the last outstanding item that would have the board consider prior to discussing a final approval would be just the waiver on the number of units on the dead-end road. So that would be something we need to vote on tonight, as well as the final plan. So that's all I've got for our list. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
There was one other, Dustin, which I know you addressed, but it was on the list, which was the backup power for the septic.
Yep, so yeah, we've committed to installing a full-time on-site backup generator for the pump station, so that's included in the plans.
Okay. Has Dustin had a chance to read your proposed?
No, we did not give that to,
Okay.
it's your motion, so.
Yep. So I guess also for Mr. Kennedy, can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Okay. So this will be the proposed a waiver for the 25 lots and the 2 access points. Jim put together a nice paragraph here. So I'll make the motion that the planning board grants approval of the requested waiver of the subdivision ordinance Article 10, Section 3.6 for the allowance of the project to exceed the maximum number of lots served by a single dead-end road to exceed the limit of 24 lots. By granting the waiver, the project is allowed 1 additional lot for the development for the total of 25 dwelling units, and additionally reserves the right of the abutter Kish to have access for no more than 1 additional dwelling, or allowed use off the proposed Honey Hill Lane, subject to a separate approval by the town code enforcement officer for the Kish or successor's permitted use. The planning board determines that the approval of the waiver that a second access road connection is not feasible given the parcel's land configuration and topographic constraints, and does not comprise public safety or health with the exceedance of added lots accessed off a dead-end termination versus a second road connection. So before we go on, is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Okay, a second. So in discussion, Mr. Kennedy, are you okay with that as far as the wording goes?
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Gee, wow.
They give you a cold star.
All right, is there any other discussion on the motion then for the waiver? Kevin, Mike?
Hey, I don't see any harm in either one of those.
Okay. So then, all those in favor of granting the motion? Yes, aye.
6-0.
Kevin and Mike, you got to voice the aye.
Aye.
Okay. Rules. All right, so the waiver is approved.
And you previously had waived the,
The 1,000 foot.
The 1,000
Previous
foot,
waived.
yep.
So that's the end of the waivers. So, is there any other discussion on the project that we haven't covered yet? This has been a long one.
no, the only thing would be whatever conditions of approval you would want. We have obtained the homeowners association documents, condo documents. The only items that I would have for, obviously subject to any of the conditions granted by the state of Maine, Health and Human Services for the septic design, or Maine DEP. Should be made part of the conditions. That's probably the easiest way to do that. And then the other item we had in was we'd want a third-party inspection during construction for Hill Lane for groundwater conditions during construction.
Right.
That's, I think that, was that pretty much what?
Yep, yeah, that's what I had, those items there.
All right, anyone want to try the motion?
Oh, and, hold on, Wayne, did you have anything else in your, is Wayne there?
Wayne is there, but I think he's happy.
Are you all set with your stuff, or do we need any conditions on yours, Wayne?
No, the only thing I just wanted to make sure is that, that we're working off the land submission from 4/22, because that includes, at least for the fire department, that includes all those items,
Yeah.
including the street addresses.
Yeah, and what we'll do, Wayne, is, I don't know if the board's gonna sign that tonight or not, but we'll make sure that that's the appropriate date, and then we wanna make sure that all the waivers granted will be on that document, on that final recorded plan as well. So we'll have another crack to look at that plan.
Then we would be good.
Okay, thank you.
Jim, didn't I read somewhere that we needed, the planning board should reference that the road section within the LR1 zone complies with the shoreline zoning requirements?
Yes, and that's part of the, I put that in with the site plan.
You put it in with,
Yeah, I put it in the site plan of the subdivision, but I did put it in there.
okay,
So you've got, technically, there's three things you can vote on. I kind of lumped the shoreline zoning into the subdivision piece, but there's shoreline zoning, site plan, and subdivision.
shoreline zoning,
Shoreline zoning, because there's a portion
Oh.
of the road, then you
Right.
got site plan, and then you have subdivision.
okay,
And you can do it all as one big lump if you want to, if you
Yeah.
don't have anything else to add, if you want to streamline it. Obviously, we'll capture it all in the conditions, I mean, in the findings of fact.
right. All right, I'll give it a go. Okay, so I move that we approve the Raymond Hills Village 25-unit condo subdivision in accordance, we find that it meets all of the Article 7 minor subdivision Section 2 submissions and all of the Town of Raymond subdivision regulations for Article 1, and also conforms with the LRR1 zone for the portion of the road that sits within that area. Conditions of approval, Jim, I missed the first one you were talking about, the DEP.
We should make it conditioned upon any DEP requirements or any Department of Health and Human Services requirements.
Okay. Based upon, what conditions of approval then would be any requirements set forth by DEP or health and...
DHHS,
What is it, H?
Department of Health and Human
Oh,
Services.
okay. What Jim said. And I think there's one other condition, isn't there? Don't we have one more?
Third-party inspection?
Yeah,
Yep.
third-party inspection, right? Third-party inspection, which I think we're setting up to be the Cumberland County?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. All right. I did skip asking you guys if you wanted to go through each one of these items, which is that?
I'm good.
Are you okay with that?
I'm good.
Mike, Kevin, you want to go, you all right with lumping it all together?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So is there a second for the motion?
I'll second.
Second, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, great.
6-0.
Justin, I guess that's it.
Very good, thank you,
Geez,
appreciate
that
it.
was fast. Was it a couple of days worth?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna miss you, Dustin.
Yeah.
well, we'll come back with some more projects.
Okay.
Thank you, have a good night.
Thanks, Dustin. Okay, so the agenda does have the public hearing of ordinance amendments. If you are on Zoom and you do want to look at those, you can check them out at the website, the town's website, excuse me. I'm gonna skip those for now, so that we can move to the Brandon Chase application, and then we will come back to that ordinance amendments. That way we'll keep you here longer than we need to. Welcome back, Will. So just for the record, Will Haskell is stepping in as our town planner. welcome back.
How you doing?
Good. Did you get an answer? I know we've got your memo. Did you get an answer yet to all those questions?
So we did get a response from Mr. McSorley and Sebago Technics. We haven't re-responded. We've got a few more questions on that, but again, we're at preliminary plan level here, so we did get an initial response. And
So, best way you think to proceed, would that be to go through all these, or not necessarily worth?
I guess my recommendation would be to allow Mr. McSorley to give a presentation on the project,
Okay,
since we're at preliminary plan.
yep,
And then, if he wants to during that, he can kind of address the comments that came up initially, and then at the end of that, I can give some additional feedback on several of the comments that
Okay.
you responded to. So.
and good, thank you, Will. I think we were at the site walk, right? Everybody not,
I was there, yeah.
you were there,
Yes,
you were there, you guys are there, right? Sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Ms. McSorley, did I pronounce that right? McSorley?
Yep.
Okay,
I'm going to share my screen.
all right. And who's hosting Sandy, are you the host right now? Sandy?
She nodded.
Just switched it to Rob.
Okay,
Push it to Rob, okay.
see if it works.
There we go.
There we go. Good evening. I'm Rob McSorley. I work for Sebago Technics. I'm here to represent the owner for the project, Brandon Chase. We're coming before you.
Rob, can I interrupt you for a second? I just want to, since it's the first time we've done this, Kevin and Mike, can you see what's on the screen?
Ken?
Okay. Nice.
Good. We're coming before you this evening for the Raymond Cape Road subdivision. This is a 37-plus acre piece of property off the Raymond Cape Road. It is in the LLR2 zone, and there is a small portion that is in the resource protection zone. You can see on the map in the lower right hand, that wetland that sticks up into the property, that is in the resource protection zone. We came before you as a sketch plan on December 8th and had a site walk with you on, I believe it was January 9th. I was not there, but I know that you had it. Out of that came the consensus that we should go with a open space, a cluster open space subdivision. So that's what we have come back to you this evening with. We have done the net residential calculation. It's over there on the right-hand side of the page. And we adjusted that for the allowance for the open space subdivision, and we get 12 units allowed, and that's what's presented on site plan. As part of this project, we're requesting 2 waiver requests. The first one is relative to open space area. In the tracks that we have that are along the southern property line and extends across the road in a big swath into the north side of the property, we have less by about an acre of open space area. The reason we think our waiver is justified is because if you look along the north property line, you'll see the back of those lots that have wetlands and wetland buffer. That's all contiguous into the dedicated open space tracts. And I believe ordinance allows the open space to be within the lot areas. The second waiver that we're requesting is the length of the road. We are longer than the 1,000 linear feet of the code. However, we have provided 2 T-turnaround sections. This has been reviewed by the fire department, and they feel, I believe it's appropriate. We did receive comments from Will, from Goral Palma, good job, and Mr. Wayne Jones with the Raymond Fire Department. We have responded back to those and included in that resubmission are also a copy of the hydrogeological assessment that was done for the property that we mentioned in our original submittal that we would submit prior to the final, and also financial capacity letter. The plan that you see before you is actually the modified plan that has been sent back for Will and Wayne to look at. It's the same layout, it just has more or additional information on it than the plans that you have. Included are the footprints for the subsurface field. We have sized those and placed those based upon the hydrogeological assessment. 2 of those lots will have to have additional treatment to knock the nitrates down to a base of 20 milligrams per liter versus a typical 40. We have put the well exclusion zones on there, potential well locations, the test pit locations. We've indicated, you can see them kind of shaded where the T turnarounds are, the fire lane designations, and also the additional conditions of approval that were in both Will's and Wayne's notes. Relative to the comments, they were pretty straightforward. I only have a couple that, in general, that I'd like to discuss. The first one was relative to suggested building locations and their driveway locations on the subdivision plan. We don't want to tie the site down to specific locations on the lot. What we have done there is we have given you a yellow outline of where the building can go based upon the required setbacks and the setbacks from the wetland areas. And we have also included on the plan revisions a typical driveway detail that shows a typical 15-inch culvert size, which is pretty conservative based upon the flows that we would see in the swales here. What we assume is that when they come in for a building plan, they will have to do a plot plan. And at that time, they'll go out there and do an accurate location of where things should be. You know, our survey, we do it every 50 feet plus, so we don't pick up the intricals of every topo along the right of way. And that's why we want to be able to float around to the point where they come in for a building permit and they can locate that stuff on the plot plan. Another comment was relative to adding grading easements. We've added a 5-foot uniform grading easement along the back of all the roadways. That 5 foot would take the grade up above the adjacent centerline grade on the road. We do not feel it's necessary to give a grading easement all the way up to the grading that's shown on this plan on the lot. It's typical on a subdivision that you're going to see grading from the swale all the way back. My lot is that way. I have the same type of slopes on my swales that are here. Any erosion that's going to occur is going to occur within the channel portion of that. But that's going to be stabilized with erosion control blanket, and then the slopes and into the property all going to be stabilized as part of the development. So we think that 5-foot grading easement is appropriate for what's been requested. Relative to the draft homeowners documents, we're expecting those any day. We were actually hoping that we had them today so that we can say we have them, but we need to review them, but we expect to have them shortly. They will include the language for the stormwater management facilities, the management of the open space areas and roadway, as well as development restrictions, you know, what people can use for siding or whatnot. You know, restrict, make sure that somebody can't have a farm on their lot or whatnot. And also the comments that have come from the fire department will include those in the HOA docs in addition. Comments 16 through 25 are all stormwater comments, pretty straightforward. We went through all those. I believe we've addressed them adequately. If I need to have additional discussion with Will, then we can do that, but I think they were pretty straightforward. Last couple comments, fire department. I think the only thing outstanding is to put the addressing on the plans. And we were asked to have Settlers Ridge Road as our street name. The fire department is okay with that, along as we start our addressing numbers in the 100 range. There are similar names on adjacent communities, and just to make sure there's no miscommunication of where they would be going, we'll start our numbers in the 100 range instead of the single number range. And then we got to do that request to the town select board to make sure that they're okay with that street name. Other than that, project is really straightforward, comments were straightforward, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
I'm having a hard time hearing with the noise. Can somebody mute him, or?
Who's making the noise?
It looks like Chris. It looks like it's Chris, because he's the one that keeps lighting up.
Pardon me, I thought I was unmuted.
Okay,
I think he said his mic was unmuted, so he must have muted it.
okay. Okay, back to you, Will.
Great. Thanks for that description. That was great. Again, I think for the most part, the response that they submitted addressed most of our comments. There's just a couple, I guess, that I'll touch on, and some of them are the same ones that Rob kind of highlighted.
Excuse me. Do you want that graphic left up?
Yeah, for right now, yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I think our comment relative to the building locations and the driveways, we had made a comment to show those, which I think you've shown the building locations on all the lots. Understand your concern about showing the driveways. I think I would like to have a discussion with you, and I don't have a list of them right now, but there are a couple lots that have some relatively, the ditch grading, the back slope grading for the ditches in a couple lots are fairly extensive and relatively steep. So I'd like to have a discussion with you about potentially showing driveway locations on several specific lots, just because it seems like they're relatively constricted in terms of where they could be located. So I think I'd like to reserve a right to at least make a comment on that. I can provide you with
Let's have a discussion
that I think we would like to show driveway locations, and then we can have a discussion about that. I guess relative to the ditch grading, so Rob's position is that they've provided a grading easement for the back slope of the ditch that extends about 5 feet beyond the right-of-way line for the road. And well, I understand his comment that a lot of that erosion, or any erosion, would normally happen within the ditch line. I guess one concern that we have is if there's erosion that happens within the ditch and then the rest of the bank decides to slough down, and someone has to go in and repair that, if there isn't an easement in there for the full back slope of the ditch, then it could be challenging for that maintenance and repair to occur in the future. I guess my question back to Rob on this issue is, for the most part, except for maybe lot I think it's lot 1, the back slopes are basically within the front setback of the lots. So is there really an issue with providing an easement to do that future maintenance for that back slope of the ditch? So that's my comment there on that issue. There are a couple comments, I guess, in our stormwater comments, or a couple responses. One was relative to, let me get the original comment here. I think it was under drain soil filter number 1, and the proximity of the outlet control our comment was the proximity of the outlet control structure to the emergency spillway or the overflow spillway. And I think the response is that the DEP refers to the pipe outlet. I guess our interpretation of that is that and we've been called out on it, which is why we made the comment, is that the outlet consists of the outlet to the pond, not necessarily the outlet of the pipe coming out of the pond, but basically the primary outlet for the pond. And our concern is when there's a trench cut for a new outlet control pipe coming out of a pond that's very close to an emergency spillway, that if that emergency spillway ever activates, the water is going to look for the easiest path through that, and if there's a trench that's been cut through there, that's the first place that spillway would tend to fail. We've seen it on a couple projects that actually have failed with a pipe relatively close, and looking at that under drain filter number 1, the outlet pipe basically runs right along the edge of that emergency spillway. So we've got a little bit of concern there, I guess, relative to that. So that was one. And then the other was relative to number 20, our original comment number 20, which talked about, I believe the 25-year storm event actually passes over the emergency spillway, and basically, I think, Rob, you referenced, we had referenced Chapter 500. There is a comment, or there is a statement in Chapter 500, Appendix 3, that basically says the principal spillway must control the maximum flow from the design storms without activating the emergency spillway. So that was the reason for our comment. So it's not typical that we would see a 25-year storm actually activate the emergency spillway. It should go through the primary spillway, and then anything over that 25-year storm event would go over the emergency spillway. So I think those were, and again, I can coordinate directly with Rob on those. We don't need to get into the weeds, but those are a few things that we're going to respond back to his original response to comments.
Okay.
Other than that, I think they did a great job in terms of responding to our original comments.
Okay, thanks, Will. Does the board have any? Actually, Rob, I think you can put us back to the normal Zoom screen, if you can hear me. Great, thank you. Does the board have any questions going at this point? It is a preliminary review.
Yeah. Can you clarify how many building lots there are going to be? I've gotten, a few different versions of this work.
12 lots.
12. Just 12?
12 building lots,
Because I thought I saw something requesting a waiver to up that one. No?
It was open space acreage, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
So I'm just a little confused about the address. perhaps to address the issue, I don't need to belabor it. Wayne, are you okay with it? In terms of rescue fire being able to find?
So, the ultimate decision is the fire chief, and he's the E911 coordinator, and he was fine with it. One of the things that I would ask is that underneath the street sign is a number range sign for that particular street, posted on both sides, because it's an unusual starting place for numbers on a street that's starting at 100. So we did ask for that to help emergency responders understand that they're going to the right area, and that's the way it's going to be numbered.
Okay. All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
We propose to put that additional signage.
I'm sorry?
We're gonna put that additional signage that's requested.
I have a question on Will, on your comment 5.
Okay.
Which is added note on subdivision plan restricting clearing on lots to a maximum of 25% of lot area. Is that 25% reduced by the wetland area that's within each individual lot?
Let me read my note here. Add a note.
That's how I took it when I read it. That's what I thought. And
Me too.
Yeah.
So can you state your question again?
So, you're suggesting that a note be added to the subdivision plan restricting clearing on lots to a maximum of 25%. And my question is the wetland first subtracted from that total before and then the 25% is calculated?
Yeah, I think that should be within the building envelope, so I think the wetlands are excluded from the building envelope we probably have to bring the plan back up, but you've excluded the wetlands from the building envelope, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, the building envelope does not. There's the wetlands and a buffer.
Right.
So
So the comment was basically in the land use ordinance, there's a restriction on clearing to a maximum of 25% of the lot area, so the
Right.
building envelope,
Yeah.
or 15,000 square feet, whichever is greater.
Right.
So we just we asked that note be added to the plan so that they don't go out there and all of a sudden they clear the entire building envelope.
Okay. So then for Rob, a question on the waiver that you're requesting. You're requesting it and your justification for that request is that there are wetlands in individual lots.
correct. On the plan along the north property line.
Yep.
We have that open space area that's to the north, and then you can see behind those lots is a series of wetlands and buffers.
Right.
That are connected right up to the open space track. I believe your ordinance allows the open space to be within the lots. And so I don't know if it's an issue or not, but
that
we
true?
decided.
Yep, it does.
Okay.
So in addition to that, which I'm not sure you addressed in your waiver response, Rob, we had made a note or a comment about a note being added to the subdivision plan stating that the wetland buffers and the wetlands shall not be disturbed for lot development, which you've excluded it from your lot area or your building envelope, but
We can add the new,
we ought to just have a note on that.
yeah.
So my next follow-on question to that, Rob, is how are those wetland areas of interest that are going to be included as part of the justification for this waiver protected? So
We'll add a note that they can't be touched.
but I'm the second or third owner of lot 3 or lot 4, and I want a garden at the back of my property. How is that protected?
There's gonna be homeowner documents and those homeowner documents dictate what they can and cannot do on a property.
Okay,
And in those homeowner documents, we will also add that language relative to the fact that you cannot clear wetlands as depicted on the subdivision plan.
and will those wetland areas be delineated on the ground so that homeowner number 4 knows that there's wetlands in the back that can't be disturbed?
We can, but we have a buffer, a quite substantial buffer. I don't think they'll ever make it there, but, like my lot, I have a restriction on my lot that says I can't touch the last 50 feet of my lot. And that's in my owner's docs, and it references the plat that my lot is in.
It should be referenced in the deed for those lots.
Yeah, well, the deed will reference
Right.
that they need to meet the homeowner documents and subdivision
It'll
plan.
reference the subdivision plan that shows it.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Will.
Okay. That answers my question. Greg, do you have any questions?
I'm good.
Yeah, looks
I'm
Good.
fine with it.
good. Kevin, you okay? Mike?
Okay.
All right. I don't think there's any problem with the 1,000-foot waiver. We've done that now. We just did it. We've done it before. As long as the fire department is comfortable with the turnarounds, I don't see that as an issue. I have a little bit of a concern with the with waiver number 2, but that's just me. I don't think the board has a concern.
I don't, which is
Uh,
the acreage?
Yeah.
It does, it's not a waiver to increase.
No,
lot
it is not a waiver to
reduce
increase
size or anything.
Right.
That's good.
Yep. So, and I think, and I know you're okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I'm stepping in here.
Step in. Oh, Mike.
So I apologize for not having the documents in front of me. So the waiver regarding the open space, how much land is that involving? I mean, it's not very much, is it?
Do you have the memo from Will?
I read it this morning, but I didn't print it, and I don't dare leave the screen for fear of not being able to.
1.09 acres, right?
1.09 acres. We provide 14, almost 15 acres in the open space tracts themselves. And then we have additional areas on the lot that's, I haven't calculated, but it's well in excess of an acre. And we can do the area on that and tell you what it is. But it's well in excess of an acre.
Mike?
So because it isn't a great amount, I'm not too worried about it, but I agree with Bob's concerns about how do we delineate it so that the fourth buyer knows about it.
And my other concern, Mike, while you're there, my other concern on this is with the open space, the way our intent was in our open space documents was to have that area be able to be used by all individuals.
That's a good point.
With you using some of the calculation of some of the private property as now open space, that not, in my opinion, that doesn't fit the intent of our open space. I mean, I agree with the open space that it makes sense. I don't agree that we're using private property for a waiver to be able to produce another lot so that we can have, but we're going to include areas of wetlands that are not connected as open space. That's my problem.
But I believe your ordinance allows the open space area to be on the lots themselves.
As long as they're connected.
They are.
That was but they're not. Are they?
Yeah, that whole,
Can you bring your plan back up, Ron?
Yeah.
Is he looking at
we have
this
the-
connection?
Maybe I'm not,
Is it just this one?
well, these are the wetlands.
Yeah. Is he
So
just
is it-
calculating this excluding or is it?
No, excluding
Do
this
you
one
want
and
to
this one.
highlight
Okay.
the area that is, you're proposing as additional open space?
This is all open space tract, and that's open space tract.
Right.
And then you have all of this, which is connected to that open space tract.
So, oh, okay, see, I did misunderstand. So while you're sitting there, you are including basically all of, I mean, rough drawing, but all of this area here
Correct.
as open space.
That's not in our calculation, we've only included the lot area.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying that equals well more than an acre of property.
But your point, Bob, is technically that's on other people's lots.
Right.
So you can't trespass on their lots.
Exactly.
If you wanted to use that open space for going to walk through it or whatever.
Right. So that was our intent for the open space.
Yeah, I would have to agree, that's a concern.
Once again, I think we need to check the ordinance, because the ordinance, I believe, says that they can be in on open space or on lot. If necessary, we can provide an easement that allows people through that area,
That would work.
okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep. That's a good compromise. Okay. Thanks, Rob.
We have to get Rob to put me back as host.
What's up, Sandy?
We have to get Rob McSorley to put me back as host.
Oh,
Whoop,
Thank you.
sorry to steal the show.
so this project has come to us as a sketch plan. It has now come to us for preliminary approval. Well, there
Do you need
doesn't
to
seem
go
be-
to public hearing at preliminary?
Well, that was my next question, is for Sandy, I don't think we've advertised this as a public hearing. Right, Sandy, did we advertise this as a public hearing tonight?
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
Let me
I
quick
don't-
look.
Yeah,
No, we didn't.
We didn't, yeah, I didn't think we did.
No.
Would you like me to get the legal advertisement that says this was a public hearing?
Is it a public hearing? We've got really lawyer verbiage comments on this. We accept public comment, but we have to have a public hearing advertised.
Okay.
I think what it said was public comment, but not public hearing. I mean, I could be wrong, because I didn't see the advertisement, but I think that's what it was.
I think it did say public hearing.
I'm more than willing to take a public comment now, but we can't make any official action on the project until we have a public hearing. And the public hearing has to be advertised, and it has not yet been advertised. But if you'd like to say something, sure. I don't, unless the board has some objection, I don't see any reason why you can't.
No objection.
No objection.
Yeah,
Just to clarify, that was a public hearing for ordinance amendments.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what it was, that
Right.
wasn't a...
Yes, please.
So maybe the Wyndham Eagle advertisement was a little odd. My name is James Glazer. I'm a resident of 30 Cape Road, so relatively close to the proximity of this. Found the report very comprehensive. Did have a question quickly for the planning board. What is the minimum time frame that preliminary or even secondary reports are provided to the residents for review? Is there a requirement for how long those reports are available? 7 days before, 2 days before, anything like that, posted to the website? I was just curious. I didn't get a hold of this until 72 hours prior. It seemed like short notice. 14 days. Yeah, it wasn't posted 14 days prior. My question is related to the trip generation assessment. It is fairly known publicly to my interaction with third-party suppliers and a 14-year resident of 30 Cape Road that Cape Road has a significant speed issue and a traffic issue on that road. I have been witness to several near misses, animal fatalities, And my concern is that by adding these additional lots and the traffic calculation of approximately 30 trips or egresses to the day would increase the severity and risk of a traffic incident. So my encouragement to the Planning Committee and to the Selectmen Board would be to reconsider improved signage and traffic control in that area. So this is the area where it steps down. It's actually 35 to 25. The report says 40. That's not correct. Is a significant problem and gets exaggerated significantly in the summer. Well, obviously with the incoming vacationers, people are traveling on an average of 45 to 55 miles per hour through that zone. And I personally, as a resident, experience near misses on a weekly basis. So when you concentrate, that's one resident coming out of a single driveway. When you concentrate a number of residents coming out of a street now into that special zone where people are supposed to be stepping down, but they're not, you're only going to increase the risk area. So just something to consider and take very seriously from the experience I've had over 14 years in that area.
So what would you suggest?
I know there's been, I can't confirm whether it's been formal or informal. I know residents of Murch Landing and other areas or other residents along Cape Road like myself have requested the consideration of speed tables and quote, again, possibly informal, I can't confirm that. The response has been not a chance. I don't know if there are a number of effective signage that are permanent in several different towns within Raymond saying here's your speed coming into a zone that kind of publicize to people and bring awareness to slow down. There is minimal signage in the area now, so I would suggest prior to this traffic coming onto this street as they're exiting Cape, improve signage, various different ways to slice and dice that would bring people's attention to slow down, that you have traffic entering, whether it be speed or flashing lights if you're over. I've seen some very effective things through Poland and in Gray where if your speed is over the limit, it starts flashing and telling you to slow down. And those towns have said that that has been effective in lowering the call it lack of abiding to the speed zone. Right. So because this report was based on those speed zones and how much clearance is needed and line of sight, and when I know that those speed zones are not being adhered to by the residents, that's why I wanted to call that into consideration. It's fairly inexpensive mitigation at the end of the day.
Yep.
That was all my comments.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I missed your name.
James Glazer, Glaser.
Thanks, James.
My name is George Motta. I live on the Cape Road as well. I'm also in a butter to the property that is being considered for a subdivision. We have a common boundary of approximately I would say it's around 500-600 feet along the north boundary. So you see the map here, somewhere from about here to here. This is our property here. And a few questions. A couple of things here. The first one in the exhibit, I was reading through this here quickly, got to look at it this afternoon. And I don't know, on the website, you got page numbers. And you don't have that here. However, in one question I have, probably for you, Mr. McSorley, is on, this would be the Appendix 4, Subsurface Investigations. You show a map, I think that's it, where it's kind of a before and after. I'm sorry, it's 2 or 3, it's Appendix 6, Stormwater Management Plans. You show a map which includes our property that we own. It has a drainage area, stormwater area here. And you show a number of different, that's the current situation. The next page shows the proposed situation, where you're changing, according to this map, the drainage on our property by what you're doing on your property. It's the only thing I can assume, because it's a different map. One is before, one is after the project. So I'd like to know why our property has a drainage change. Maybe it's just a typo in wasn't put together correctly in the office. I know those things are done with just using the contour maps, but there's a question I have there that could be looked at. The other one, question I have involves the wetlands along the north boundary of this project. These are particular, these here, these large ones, these two large ones here, I don't know about these. This lot comes up to about here, so I haven't really looked at those here. But I am familiar with these, very familiar with them, obviously. We know the property pretty well. And the concern with those is that they could potentially be governed by the Natural Resource Protection Act as either a vernal pool or a significant vernal pool. And if that's the case, then that needs to be investigated. We don't know for sure if they are or not. And you have a letter here in your packet. It's around page 114 from the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. A Becca Settle, wildlife biologist. And in it you highlighted, our department has not mapped any essential habitats that would be directly affected by your project. That's true. I'm very familiar with that. And I noticed that if you continue to read down through, you'll see where that's common throughout the whole state, and she talks about that. And she does recommend strongly, in my opinion, the way it's written, significant vernal pools. We recommend that surveys for vernal pools be conducted within the project boundary by qualified wetland scientists. And it goes on. These surveys should extend up to 250 feet beyond the anticipated project footprint because of the potential performance. So I noticed on the layout that you currently have, some of the holes that were dug and the footprints for buildings and foundations could be within 250 feet. I don't know that for sure. But right now you're talking about 125 feet here. 250 is going to take you out quite a bit further than that. And you are allowed some development within that. We all know that. The law allows some development in there. The concern I have is if we were just talking about gardens a little while ago. I believe both of these are vernal pools and don't want to see insecticides or fertilizer or anything else from a garden or a lawn running off into them. So the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife is recommending that a survey be taken, and the window for that survey is now. They do it twice, and they gotta do it now, or you wait another year if you decide that should be looked at as a planning board. So that's the thing that I'd like to see addressed, and those are my bulk of my comments, I believe. Let's see. Yep.
Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, sir, it's a mask only for the meeting.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I've been here so long. I didn't need to.
I didn't notice you before, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. I'll see if I can find one.
There's one right here.
Yep.
And there's another thing. I could not find this on the website. You've got the entire plan on there, but this map's not on that website in any of the appendices.
That colored version.
I didn't see any version of it. I saw one that showed a road going through the middle and had to do with stormwater, but it didn't show lots. Anyway, maybe it's somewhere else on the website and I couldn't find it.
Ms. Bond, first thing, I could not, as you were going through it, your first comment concerning the runoff, that what you were referencing, I just want to make sure, I couldn't find what you, in the packet, what you were referring to.
Okay.
I just want to make sure somebody did catch it.
I'll address that.
You'll address that? Okay.
Yeah.
And Will, did you catch actually where it is? That
I know, I'll look at it, I know what you was.
Okay.
On the website, it's
All right.
around page 10. Yep, that's the one.
Okay.
114 or somewhere in that neighborhood? No, 104, 102 and 103, I think it is.
Okay, and for to address the vernal pool issue, when we did the site walk, we were told that they were in fact going to test for vernal pools, but they couldn't do it because we did it in the winter. So I'm assuming that maybe that's the wrong assumption, but I'm assuming that is already going to take place. Is that correct, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only reason I brought it up is because there's a note in here that tends to imply that's not going to happen, that they're not vernal pools and they weren't found on the state maps.
Significant permit.
Right. None were found on the state map, but they actually come down and look. And that's what we were told.
Well, it's more than a look, it's,
Oh, I understand, but
yeah,
it's the difference.
right.
Okay, are there questions? Mr. Braun? Okay.
Anyway, I guess the only thing I'd close with, I'm not against the development, I just want to make sure that, you know, we've lived there 17 years, and I've been watching these and others in the area for some time, and I'm pretty convinced that there's some organisms and animals in there that need to be looked after. So.
Indicator species.
Okay.
Wow, look at you.
I know that stuff.
It's like a dummy, too.
You want me to address?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. The two maps that he's referring to are the pre and post stormwater maps.
Rob, can you tell us where those are in your book?
I'm not sure, they should be in the storm, at the tail end of the stormwater section.
That's what I thought, but maybe I just missed it.
Or, if you look at your base plans, they're the last 2 pages.
You've got the plan set for the last 2 pages of the plan.
That'll be easier.
Appendix 6.
Appendix 6, yeah.
If you look at those are the big versions.
Okay.
And so what we do is, when we do our stormwater, we have to model or take into consideration any water that comes onto our site. And if you look at that map, you'll see that there are lines that extend out off our property. And that's what those lines are. They go, I believe, into the gentleman's property there. Both plans, they're exactly the same for the boundary outside the property. They change within the property. So, the
Rob,
one...
Can you explain why the time of concentration changes from pre to post off the property? So the time of concentration line that you show, which is pretty specific.
Well, based upon you changing the development of the site, then your time of concentration line will change.
But off the property, the time of concentration is different in pre versus post.
But once again, you're looking for the longest time of concentration. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in the same place after you develop. So your time of concentration, the place where your furthest point of water hits that area is where you take your time of concentration starting from. And then what you do is you look at your site after, you redraw your stormwater boundary, and you relook at all those areas, and you look and find the place where that new basin, it's the farthest travel time for that piece or drop of water to flow through that boundary. So when you adjust the boundary, then your time of concentration line most likely is going to change also. It's not necessarily going to be in the same place.
But
the off-site boundary area, though, is identical in the pre versus
Yes.
post.
Yeah.
But this line, maybe I'm missing it. The line where you have A, B, C, D, that's the line we're referring to, right?
Yeah, that's the time of concentration line.
Okay.
And that can change.
Well, how can that change off the property when you develop on the property?
What you're looking for is you're looking for the longest travel path of a drop of water. So if I have this
I see.
if I have this big area here, right?
Yep.
And then I cut it down to this. It's not necessarily the furthest part.
Right,
it's gonna
I
be in the
understand.
same location.
That's what I was trying to get you to say.
Right. So I think then the answer to, I think, your question is, the water runoff of, was it Mr. Bada? Is that?
That's right.
Mr. Bada's property is not going to change
No,
post-development?
no.
Okay.
And
But
that drains, that one wetland drains onto the property.
right.
And we actually have a pipe that goes underneath the roadway to convey that and continue that flow through the property.
Okay.
So,
Good. Well, you're going to have
well, I'm
to.
concerned because, so are we saying that first of all, on your map,
That's why they're going to yell at you if you don't go to the mic. You know, the voice comes out of the sky and.
so if you look at the map,
Could you use the microphone, please?
if you look at the map, the way I see this is happening somewhere right in this area right here. Yeah, right about there, right there. So that's an area that you've taken out. You're saying that's going to be a protected area or open space, or, so that's taken out. So I'm still struggling to understand why before anything is done here, the water moves right along the boundary here.
It moves,
And it doesn't show that on your map.
it generally flows this way.
It's not showing that on your map.
We don't put an arrow for every drop of water. What we do is, that is the longest path for the water to flow. But what we're saying is all of that area drains this way. On this map, there's what's called a study point, and that's where the water ends up.
Okay.
So if you look at this map, you
It's
don't have
down
the
here.
whole map.
Yeah.
Right down here, you'll see a
Right.
dot,
Yeah.
and that's the study point, and that's where all the water flows to.
So I guess the question is then if that's the case then, after the fact, why isn't it shown as being the case now at the current?
It is.
Because it is, I think,
There's no arrow on the first map.
but it doesn't, so I think,
It's not coming out of here though. On this one, it's coming out of there.
yeah.
Okay,
I think the answer is that after, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but after what this point of concentration is looking at the longest line that can be drawn for that flow of water,
It's
right?
not the line.
It's not the-
It's actually the flow path.
Okay, so the longest
line that it
possible
takes.
flow path.
Yeah.
So once the development gets put into place, that flow path extends into the development now further than it would have before, which changes the longest point and pulls it into the property. So the water flow doesn't change. The way the water's moving doesn't change. It's just where the concentration of that water for the longest stretch of time changes.
So are you saying that the water's gonna back up onto the property?
No.
It should be the same as
it's exactly
pre
the
and
same.
post.
Yeah,
And you can tell really by the contour lines that the small lines, it's unusual to have a map with these arrows and showing the path of concentration, but from what's on here, it doesn't appear anything changes on your side.
Other than the additional ABC line that they added on the second.
That's something
Yeah,
very
There's two
specific to
different
the
lines, there's a
model.
pre-line and a post line.
Well, I understand that. That's why my question came up in the first place, because
But it has nothing to do with the amount of water that falls there and where it goes.
yeah, it was a good question. I think
Just
we all
the
learned
time.
something, but
what?
I said it was a good question. I think we all learned something, but it doesn't really affect the way the water's flowing. It just affects that concentration point of the longest flow of water.
Okay, so a follow-up question.
Yep.
We have no plans to do this now, but let's just say my son inherits this and he wants to put a 3 or 4 houses up there, development of some kind. Is this new line that you put on here showing this drainage that is happening after this development goes in going to impact any decision this board makes on the
No.
future of that? And he might propose 10 years from now.
No impact at all.
Okay.
What will happen on that case is any development that happens in this area will still go that way. He'll be restricted to what the runoff can be from that area. These other areas, if he's developing that, that's gonna head out that way, and I think this is gonna head down this way. But it won't affect the amount of, discharge that he could have pre or post. Doesn't affect it at all.
Okay. I'm not sure I totally understand it, but thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome.
If you have a second after the meeting, I'll. The second comment relative to vernal pools, we in fact took this into account when we proposed this design. You'll notice that there are no wetland impacts. That was specific, so that we did not have to go to Maine Department of Environmental Protection or Army Corps relative to wetland impacts. Not only that, when we looked at it, we actually calculated if these were vernal pools, how much impact area would be within that 250-foot radius to make sure that we were below 25%. And that's what we are. So we took that into account in our design to make sure that we didn't have a problem with these wetlands, either one of impacting them or impacting any vernal pool habitat that would be adjacent to them.
So you are assuming them all to be vernal pools, is what you're saying?
That's the assumption we've looked at.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
The delineation of those wetlands that you're showing on there, was that done in the field or is that from a map, a state map?
In the field.
In the field?
Gary Fullerton of our office, who's a
Wetland specialist.
certified wetland
Certified wetland
specialist. Yeah.
Did you submit the report for
Did you come
that?
to Mike?
Yeah.
It's on the survey. It's noted on there and probably on the subdivision plan too.
All right. In the project that we just looked at, the same concerns came up on the driving and the roads and speeds. And although I'm sure everybody on this board and everyone that drives around here shares those concerns, but there's nothing that we can do as far as a project approval goes based upon how people drive. We can only really look at site distance based upon how people should be driving. And that's a concern. I think that, we can work or ask if some signage would be appropriate for the intersection. But there's nothing that can be required because it doesn't meet the ordinance site distances. So. Did I say that right? Good. I keep saying it wrong. What else? So how would the board like to move forward with the preliminary table till we get our additional information? What do you want to do?
That's where I am. Yep, I think so.
Preliminary? Go. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to let somebody else have the fun of doing this. Going through the motion here. It's an easy one. Nobody wants to do it? All right, I move that we grant preliminary approval to the major subdivision applicant Brandon Chase, location map 004, lot 029, zone LLR1, pending public hearing and completion of outstanding items.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Everybody okay? Kevin, you okay? I haven't heard from you. All right? Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Zoom guys? Okay? Pass.
Thank you very much.
The next item is are you also going to do this Valley View subdivision request for extension? Who's doing?
John Chase.
John Chase is doing that. Oh.
That's very simple.
Well, the letter that I read just said maximum extension. It didn't really give a date of anything at the time. Are you back representing? Are you back guiding us here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This was one that was done by, I think Walsh Engineering.
Okay, thank you, Will.
And we had discussed this wasn't with Sean, it was another gentleman in his office we had discussed this with to give them, we just told them they had to come back to the board, but I'll look it up while you're having a discussion. What the actual terms are as far as what we can extend it to. I know, Alex, you might remember as well. No? Thanks, Alex.
I think Jim might remember.
Yeah,
Valley Road, isn't it?
Yeah.
yeah.
Didn't we extend this?
Yeah, I think we did.
No, they came back for reapproval.
Oh, that's right.
It's never been extended, but they did come back for reapproval because they altered the road design.
Right.
And we had to relook at what they re-altered, so it has not technically come back for extension, but I'll try to find that language in here, what the terms are as far as...
Did we just revise that last year?
We did, and it matches the site plan, so it's all the same. Here it is. See if I can keep my glasses. It's in Article 10, section... yeah, right. Article 10, which section is it in?
I think it's, is it Article 11.6?
I'm looking at, yeah, I'm in site plan because it's the same language.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, the language reads,
Look at it.
a property owner, developer, or their agent may request an extension of the period to commence or complete construction by submitting a request to the reviewing authority that issued the subdivision plan approval prior to the expiration of the initial term of approval. The reviewing authority may grant one-time extension up to 2 years to commence or complete construction. If construction is not completed, if construction is not commenced or completed within the approval timeframe, the applicant must reapply. So it's for 2 years.
2 years.
And I think, Alex, you wanted to come back to the board because it was a subdivision that, so you have the authority to grant an extension of 2 years. And they did submit that prior to the expiration of their last approval, correct?
Yeah.
I know John's on here. John, did you want to say anything?
No, I appreciate it. Thank the board for at least taking a look at this. Obviously, we're all in difficult times here with time management and things like that. It is a project that I'm going to be putting on the books here for 2022, late 2023 starting time. I'll be back in front of the board. I've just got to complete, I've got several projects I'm doing right now, and this is the next slated up project that we're looking up to do. So I'll get started within the next 2 years quite easily.
If we give him an extension, he doesn't have to come back again, right?
No. The board has the authority, the board or the staff has the authority to grant an extension, which would be for 2 years. So it would go on to the original approval date expiration, so we'll just extend it 2 years. So essentially it's very easy. You can just make a motion to extend for 2 years due to circumstances of the economy or whatever. I would just make a recommendation that whatever the reason is, you just note it in your extension if that's where you want to go.
So by definition, is it 2 years of commencement or completion? Because the verbiage is kind of confusing. It's just two different, it's because if it's completed, then it could be.
You have to commence.
4 year.
You have to commence.
Commitment is 2 years.
Yeah. It's commenced, and then I think we do have a separate, once they commence, then they have a period that they have to complete within. But this is to commence.
Yep. Okay, I'll make a motion that we grant a 2-year one-time extension for the commencement on this project based upon recent conditions, both with COVID, the economy, and things that were obviously would not have been anticipated.
I'll second.
For discussion, do we have to have a reason in there?
No, but I think it's just good that you just don't do it blindly. I think there should be a reason, a rationale, and I think it's, if it's COVID or the economy or the builder's scheduling issues, I think that's fine.
Okay.
I just think it just clarifies why.
Because we have a project before us from Brandon Chase.
Different Chase.
Different Chase, perfect, okay.
That's John Chase, Chase Home Excavation. This happens to be Brandon Chase, a different developer. 2 chases in the same time. We're chasing our tail.
All right, any discussion, questions?
All good.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6-0. Congratulations, you got a 2-year extension.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Thanks.
Good night.
Have a good night.
You as well.
Okay.
So Rob's picture's gonna stay up there now.
All right, so the next order of business is the public hearing for the amendment changes. So if you are still out there watching on Zoom, you can feel free to call in as we go through this. Just as if you are watching for info, once the planning board takes action on the individual ordinances, they are forwarded to the selectmen. The selectmen then review and approve or disapprove and send it on to the town meeting, where the town has the opportunity to vote to approve or not approve any of these ordinance changes. For the board, we have an option. We can either approve and forward with recommending approval to the Board of Selectmen. We can approve without a recommendation, or we can table for further study, or we can just vote no, and then the ordinance changes would stop here. I don't think we need to go through every one of these as detailed as we had, but just for the record, I intend to read the summary that the change is we are proposing, and then have a vote whichever way we feel appropriate. Does that sound all right with everybody? All right, so our first one is 22 tax 01. And the summary of the change is this amendment to the land use ordinance ensures zoning provisions would require all applicants for a setback variance to meet the hardship requirements of a variance. The much more forgiving setback reduction option would be removed from both ordinances. The setback variance with less strict hardship criteria would replace the setback reduction in the shoreline zoning provisions. This less strict variance already exists in the land use ordinance. Is there a motion? Do you want me to do this?
Yep, move to accept, what do you want to call it?
Good question. We're going to call it revisions to Article 6, Bravo 1B. No, that doesn't sound right. No, it would be shoreline zoning provision, section 16G2.
Yes, that.
That, second.
I think if you just go to the cover sheet, I think that will help you.
Yeah. I agree.
That really has all the nuts and bolts I think you need.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Perfect, passes. Second one, 22.
Excuse me, Bob, can you just give me who seconded that one?
I did.
You did. Yeah, Bob did.
I did.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry.
And are you gonna, I assume there's no public comment? I don't see any come in.
No.
So just make sure we you don't forget to ask.
No, they get one chance.
Okay.
That's it. No?
One and done.
Well, they get another chance at the town meeting.
That's true.
And at the selectmen.
That's select board.
Yep.
All right, 22 tax 02 is the summary of change, is the amendment of the land use ordinance and shoreline zoning provisions would create specific performance standards for the solar energy systems. This, just for the record, this is really our only ordinance that is actually a brand new section to the land use ordinance.
That is correct.
Is that correct? Okay. Is there a motion?
I move to forward it to the select board with recommendation to approve.
I'll second. And actually, we missed that on the first. Sandy, we missed this on the first one. So we just need to modify the motion for the first ordinance change to be recommending to the selectmen, recommending approval. And just to be,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
okay, and that was the amendment to Greg's. I second that amendment, and we just need another vote to make sure we're all legal.
This is for the first one. Yep.
All those in favor? Okay. Sorry, guys.
So
All
you
right.
need to make the motion for the second one.
Second, so we are in discussion now for the second one.
Yep.
Sure ordinance. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Done, passed. 2203, summary of change, Article 9, Section A3 indicates that the conditional use being applied for will not generate noise, vibrations, fumes, odors, dust, or glare, which are detectable at the lot boundaries, and all aspects of the conditional use will be carried on within the structure. The conditional use of the outdoor sales and service found in Article 4, Section Foxtrot 3, for the commercial district does not have a definition in the ordinance. The proposed amendment will define outdoor sales and service and update the ordinance to allow conditional use outside of the structure. Motion?
I move we recommend approval to the Board of Selectmen.
So we do recommend approval, all second? Any
I'll
discussion?
second. Oh, you second.
I did. You guys are too slow.
We are.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. 22-4. Summary of a change. This amendment to the subdivision regulation would correct an error in the ordinance that creates confusion as to which subsection a 25-unit subdivision would need to adhere to. Did I read that correctly? This amendment to the subdivision regulation would correct an error in the ordinance that creates confusion as to which subsection, a 25-unit subdivision would need to adhere to. Is there a motion?
I motion we forward it to the Board of Selectmen, recommending approval.
So, Greg.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done. 22-5. Summary of change. This proposed amendment would allow newly defined use, commercial solar energy systems and outdoor storage within certain districts in town. What am I doing? 26. Wait a minute.
The last one you just read was
Okay,
2205.
five, okay, the 6. Thank you. Is there a motion? Adding is permission to the solar energy system use in certain districts. I move that we approve the amendment and forward recommending approval. Ed, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Done. 22-7, summary of change. The amendment would define the term outdoor storage. Approval of this amendment does not allow the use in any district. See 2206. Is that, Alex, what is 2206?
That's the table of land uses in shoreline zoning where we're adding solar systems to the
Okay.
table.
Yep.
Is there a motion?
I move that we forward it to the Board of Selectmen with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. 22-8, summary of change. This amendment would change the minimum lot size requirement to 2,000 square feet instead of the current 21,780 square feet, which is 1/2 acre. Basically, just correcting two different verbiages in the ordinance. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve this, or recommend it for approval to the Board of Selectmen.
Second? Beat you.
Yeah, you did.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, this one, have we, this one I found in the back, the business license ordinance. Did we work on this one? And I just,
No, you don't. This is not part of the land use ordinance. It's a standalone ordinance. And it's not something that you guys are required to really look at. But it's been common practice. I think this ordinance was actually created in 2020. Common practice to have you guys at least look at it. And have it be included in the public hearing process. But it's really more of a select board ordinance.
yeah. So, for the board, my recommendation on this one, if we're comfortable with it, we would vote to approve and send without recommendation, because it's not really one of ours.
Okay.
Okay? The purpose, I'll just read the purpose then. The purpose of the ordinance is to provide reasonable regulations for business other than home occupants operating in the town of Raymond, and to protect and promote the health, welfare, and safety of town residents and the general public. So I would move that we approve the proposed town of Raymond business license ordinance and send to the selectmen without a recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's all done. Last chance in the public hearing? Closed. There was nothing really in there that would get anyone excited.
Yeah, nope, nothing at all.
All right.
Next year.
Yeah, we'll go for next year. All right, gender. What else have we got?
There's supposed to be an interview with Michael Richmond.
Oh yeah, did Mike show up at all?
May have been here earlier.
He has not come into the Zoom, no.
Okay.
Do you want to schedule him for next month?
Yes, I guess we probably should, right?
Yep.
Yep,
Okay,
next month.
will do.
Planning Communications?
I didn't even talk this over with Alex, but one of the things I think you probably have all heard recently in the news is the discussion that's going on in the state legislature with regards to affordable housing and changes to lot density. I did get something from Maine Municipal Association, which I can share with Alex, which is their latest recommendations to that. But obviously, there's a lot of density and a lot of concerns from a lot of communities about the approach that's being taken on this, and some concerns. I know various folks and members of MMA have responded, and it's now going to the Senate. So it'll be interesting to see where that discussion goes, because it's usually different at the Senate level than it is at the legislative level. But there are a lot of concerns from various towns and municipalities about the density and the impacts and some of the language that's in there. And if you want, I can send it to Alex, and I can send it around so you can see the most current version of that.
Okay.
I don't think that'd be something that we would have to implement until 2023, because when we do our ordinances. But it would be a pretty big shakeup as far as density, going from, basically one dwelling on a lot to 4.
On every lot?
On any single family lot, if you're doing affordable housing, you could up to 4 units.
Regardless of the district?
Yeah, there's some language in there about certain districts they want to do it in. This is the discussion that's going on. There's discussions about water usage, sewer usage, the density of that. The language that I saw was really, you could tell it was geared towards communities that had municipal sewer. Because obviously on some of our lots, it might be difficult to attain the necessary sewer flow rates. The other issue that comes up a lot too is parking, and they give a substantial reduction for required parking in this proposal, which some of the towns are also having issues with, because I think we see too, where we have multi-unit dwellings, there's not enough parking usually in those things. And if you don't have enough parking, they park on the street or they park on the lawns, and it becomes an issue. So there's a whole bunch of things in there. I will pass it on to Alex so that he can pass it on to you folks to take a look at it. At this point, I don't think there's anything we need to do, but if you do have comments, obviously we can pass it along to MMA or whatever. But I can tell you there's a lot of boards that are interested in what's going on with this. It could have a drastic change on some of the communities it works in. But the question I always have with affordable housing is, to me, to your point, some of it's got to be contained in the zoning where we put these types of units, because they should be near the town center where there are available services. And I think in some of the rural communities, you have to ask yourself, how much affordable housing you're going to get, because typically those are closer to municipal centers where work and services are located. And the further out they get, now you got the expense of transportation. We don't have a busing transportation program here in Raymond that connects us with other communities. So there are challenges, but to your point, I know the board's discussed this before, do we need to look at our affordable housing? And the state's taking it kind of out of our hands at this point.
Okay.
So. Alex, you have any thoughts on that?
Not really. I think I need to learn a little bit more about it. I would be interested to see how we might be able to work that in.
Yeah, I think the way they wanted to look at it is kind of like the way we would with a multiplex. The same type of density we would with a multiplex. And I think that's what they're looking at, is duplexes and multiplexes for the most part. Not 4 single families on a lot, but basically 4 dwellings in a multiplex.
Yeah.
I was gonna build 3 more houses in my backyard.
And they're also looking at softening some of the accessory dwelling unit language as well.
Okay. Projects on the, for next week. Sandy, are all those projects coming to us next week, next month? Excuse me.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, so have you?
I have not seen those yet.
You've not seen them?
Right, I'll get them out, probably on Tuesday.
Do we have a summary of what those projects will be?
So the question, Sandy, really are, is it doable in a meeting, this pile that's being, sitting on your desk?
Well, it's gonna be interesting.
That doesn't sound good.
You should be a politician.
Anytime you have a couple of things, but that, what with the piers and docks.
Yes, okay.
Under that section, that one's gonna take some doing, but that relates back to, stuff that's going on in Board of Appeals right now for administrative appeals, because Alex did his job and issued, notices of violation.
It's an after the fact.
Right.
Yeah.
That's gonna be interesting.
That's gonna be interesting. So.
Okay, let's not talk about it.
What else are the other ones?
One is an amendment to an approved subdivision to move a property line because she's buying part of the neighbor's lot because her well and septic property on it.
Okay. Simple. Should be.
Somebody wants to come in for an informational meeting to try to get something changed from a plan from way back so that can be subdivided, even though the original plan said it couldn't be any further divided.
The Egypt Road one.
And yeah, then there's the Egypt Road one, I think, is the lot line change.
So Bob, what we can do is Alex and I can kind of meet, and then we can kind of reach out to you, discuss what we'll have to, how we want to program the meeting, or how we want to space time the meeting, just to make sure we have ample time.
Right. Okay. Anybody else have
And
any?
we've got the other one too, Jim, from Sebago Technics, that isn't even coming to me what it is at the moment. Oh, the
Moraine.
Harbor.
Moraine. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the other one.
What was that? You both talked over each other?
Port Harbor
I said
Marine?
that was the
Port
other one.
Harbor Marine,
Yeah,
okay.
Port Harbor Marine.
Yeah.
All right. We got some shoreline zoning stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Always.
All right, anything else that we need to talk about?
I don't think so. We have no site walks or anything, so.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Done. Thank you, guys.